What's up, YouTube? This video is going to be all about getting an app on your smartphone that will help you with your photography. It'll explain everything from flash distance to settings to doing time lapse to shooting the moon to depth of field. It's called the Photographer's Companion, and they have done an absolutely remarkable job with this app. It's available on both Android and Apple. So if you have an iPhone, you can get it from the Apple App Store. You can get it from Google Play if you have an Android phone. I use this not really on a regular basis. I did try it out. It also has a light meter, which for ambient light, it actually works very, very well. I'm going to show you the light meter aspect and quickly walk you through some of the app options and whatnot and all the different things that it can do. I'm not going to go through it in depth because this video would probably be a week long and nobody wants to see that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's just get right down to showing the app, and I will leave a link for the app. Well, not a link for the app, or actually maybe I could. I'll see what I can do about that. I will let you know what the app is actually called. Hopefully, yes, I believe with Google Play you can actually go to the site and it'll download it to your phone, so I will leave the link for that. I'm not sure about the Apple one. I don't use Apple products personally. It's just my own choice. I'm a Windows and Android guy. Sorry for all the Apple lovers out there. My bad. But let's get right down to it and show you what it's all about. You will thank me later. Booah!
Okay, so here is the app itself, the Photographer's Companion. And within this app, on the left side, you've got the typical exposure triangle system. So it has the different apertures and what that actually means for depth of field. And then you've got your shutter speeds for motion blur and everything. And your ISO in regards to sensitivity values and brightness. And then on the right side, you have all the categorized areas of what the app actually has in store. So let's start with equivalent exposure. And this one is extremely handy. Say, for example, you want to shoot ISO 100, and say you're using a kit lens. So say, you're shooting at f3.5. So you're shooting, 18 millimeters. 3.5 at ISO, at 1/800th of a second shutter speed at ISO 100. But then you think, you know what? I want more depth of field. I wasn't quite right. I just want to extend that depth of field a little bit more. So maybe you want to change it to f8. Well, now you know the equivalent exposure is ISO 100 at f8. You need a shutter speed of 1/160th of a second to give the same amount of light as 1/800th of a second f3.5 at ISO 100. Say, for whatever crazy reason, actually say you have one of the cameras that can go down to ISO 80. So you want to drop that down. Now you know 1/125th of a second would be the equivalent exposure to your initial settings. Say you want to shoot at f8. But then you realize, oh, wait a minute. Nope, that's not going to work. I need to shoot at f11. So now you know 1/320th of a second would be the equivalent exposure. So each one of these that you change, it will give you the equivalent in order to match the exposure. Now the next one, this one is cool. The depth of field. It actually gives you a simulator. So you punch in your focal length. So let's see, say 24, or you know what? Say you're doing a portrait. So let's go straight to 85. For all you portrait photographers, let's go 85, 1.4. And now say you're shooting at a distance of 2 meters away. So you'll see that pretty much everything's going to be out of focus. So if you change it to say 25 meters away, right along here, you can actually see where the changes are being made. That's showing the actual depth of what would actually be in focus between the camera, the subject, and the background. You know, say you're shooting at 100 at, say, f8 at 54 meter distance. Let's drop that down to, say, 5 meter distance. So that person would barely be, there you go. And it's actually an overhead view of someone sitting down with their legs crossed. So that's that. I mean, this is a very, very well developed app. Very, very well developed. Now let's see if you go to a 50 millimeter at 5.6. Now you'll see there's a huge amount of depth of field. You can shoot pretty much as close as 4 meters away, and you would have the subject in focus. It also gives you your hyperfocal distance, the aperture 8.9, foreground, background distance. You can, I mean, everything's in here. It's got a bokeh calculator, and yeah, I mean, there's field of view simulator as well, which is actually really cool. So say if you're shooting 8 meters away, it'll show you right here the actual representation of what that'll look like. Let's go back to 2 meters. That's how close they are at 18 millimeters. Let's go to, say, 24. That's how close the field of view would be. And it also shows, well, yeah, I'm doing this in landscape, so generally you wouldn't be doing that. You would be holding the phone in portrait mode. But as you change the focal distance, you'll notice how small everything gets. It shows you a real-time representation of how close everything would be. So say, you know, okay, let's take COVID for example. So you're 2 meters away, but you want to get it all in there. So how wide would you actually have to go? 18? Nope. 17? Nope. Let's do 11. There you go. So you would have to be at the focal length of 11 millimeters in order to get everything in there at a 2 meter distance. So, and because if you look here on the very, very bottom left, I've got the Pentax K3 in here. Yes, Pentax is represented in this app. Booyah! So now let's go to, let's see, exposure value. So this shows you the difference in regards to exposure value. Whoops. So let's see, 24 millimeters. Recommended settings for shooting night. And let's see, for the Aurora Borealis, 3200 ISO over here. Aperture of f2.8, 4-second shutter speed, which is basically telling you that you need to have a tripod because there's the red hand there. And it just keeps going and going. So as we get more into brighter light, you know, 1/5000th of a second if you're shooting at f2.8. So this is a very remarkable app. I mean, there's just so much in this app. It's crazy. It even has a macro calculator that you can use. It's absolutely phenomenal. Okay, so now I just want to quickly show you the actual light meter function on here. Now it doesn't work with flash because flash duration is just way too fast for this to even pick it up. However, I have played around with this a bit and it seemed to work pretty well for just ambient light. Now, the way I usually use it is I have reflected light camera enabled. That way it actually enables the camera sensor or the phone camera on, so you can actually have a little window here on the right side. And basically what I do is I just aim it in an exact location of where I want to measure, and it's telling me a shutter speed of 1/15 of a second for ISO 800 at aperture f8. So let's set that up here. So that's 1/15 f8 ISO 100. Sorry, ISO 800. And let's see what happens. That looks pretty good. So now I'm going to introduce another light, which will change the exposure. And let's see what this does. Let's just take a measurement. And that's saying 1/30th of a second. So let's go to 1/30th of a second here. And yeah, looks pretty good. And there we have the 1/30th of a second. So yeah, like I said, this app is absolutely phenomenal.
I know, look at that shadow behind me. That's crazy. I'm gonna move over here. Okay, so yeah, like I said, this is the Photographer's Companion app is an extremely well designed and very capable app that basically has every single tool, whether you're just getting started as a beginner, you're an amateur, advanced amateur, professional. It takes the calculations out of you having to figure it all out. I mean, it does everything. Time lapses, exposure compensation, equivalent exposures, everything and anything that you could possibly need is in this app, including lightning and shooting the stars, the moon, sunrise, sunset. It even has a thing to calculate, uses the phone's GPS so it knows your actual location. I mean, you've got to check it out. I highly recommend this app. It's absolutely invaluable when you're out on the field, or if you're just starting off and you're just trying to figure it all out. It takes all the guesswork out of being able to capture those epic moments. Anyway, that's it for me. If you like the video, leave a like. If you have not already, please do subscribe. It helps me out. If you'd like to donate to the channel, I leave that information at the bottom of the description. And if you have any questions, comments, leave them down below. And you guys will see me on my next video. I'm out.